If you're feeling overwhelmed, and whether that's overwhelmed by a decision you have to make, or maybe you've already made a decision, but you're not sure about next steps, maybe you know your next steps, but you're just overwhelmed about getting started, or maybe you're overwhelmed by breaking that down into smaller steps, or any other reason you might be overwhelmed, this episode is for you. Today, we're going to discuss 5 reasons people often find themselves feeling overwhelmed and what you can do about it when you find yourself there. Hey friend, welcome back to the Jesus Coffee Yoga podcast. Or if this is your first time, welcome to the show. We help yoga teachers and fitness professionals like you design a business around the life that they want to live instead of, as we often accidentally find out, that your business will end up running your life if you're not intentional about some things. And we love talking about those things to help you build the life you want to live. So usually on this podcast, it's Kristen and I breaking down these concepts, but today I'm flying solo. Now I know somewhere in one of our past episodes, I've said the phrase, overwhelm is a choice. And I probably said, oh, we should just do an episode on overwhelm. Well, this is that episode. Now, when I say that phrase, I know it can sound really disempowering. Overwhelm is a choice, because if you're feeling overwhelmed, what I'm saying is you're choosing to be overwhelmed. And while that is true, that can feel pretty lousy when someone tells you that. And I get that. So in this episode, what I want to do is empower you to let you know that it is in fact a choice, and you can choose to no longer stay stuck in overwhelm. All right, so let's get started. The first reason people often feel overwhelmed is a lack of confidence. If you don't feel confident, it's really easy to feel overwhelmed about whatever it is that you're facing. The way I usually see this play out is that people don't want to make a choice or make a move until they feel confident. But the issue here is that confidence comes from doing. So if you're waiting until you feel confident, you're going to be waiting forever. Confidence is built by doing. So you have to just put in the reps, make a choice, go ahead, move forward. And the more that you do that, the more that you do the thing, the more that you make choices, the more action that you take, the more confidence that you build. I'm going to share a story that will help me illustrate this point. The other day, me and my family were out on a bike ride. And there's this area in our neighborhood, we call it the retention pond, even though it's not really a pond. It's for flood control. So if we got a ton of rain, maybe it would fill up with water. And it's got a hill that you can go down and then back up. And my younger son, who's still getting used to his bike, was afraid to go down the hill. Now, I know he can do it. He's done bigger hills on the street we take to get to this very same spot. But he was really afraid to go down the hill, and he didn't want to do it. So he was lacking confidence. And as I was coaching him through this, I was telling him, look, I know that you can do this. You've done other hills. You did one just coming to this place. I know it feels a little bit different, but it's really essentially the same. I know that you can do it. And he just didn't want to do it. So then I told him, like, you have to trust me. I promise that you can do this. And I gave him a little bit of advice. You can feather your brakes and control your speed, but I know that you can do this. And so he borrowed my confidence and my trust in him. He went down the hill and was like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I love this. And the whole rest of our time there, he had a great time. He did some of the other hills, and the more and more he did it, the less he used his brakes and the more confident that he felt. So the points I want to make here is that sometimes you don't feel confident and you need to borrow someone else's confidence in you. So this could be a coach or a trusted friend, or even Kristen and I digitally through what we do here with Christians Do Yoga. We know that you can do it. If you'll just take that step and trust, I know that you can do it. So borrow our confidence in your abilities. That if God is leading you or has put something on your heart, you have what you need to do what he's called you to do. Another point I want to make here is that the more and more you do something, the more and more confidence you build. It really just comes down to getting more reps. But you can't get that first rep until you just take that step and take some action. And then the last point before moving on is that even if what you're facing now isn't the same as what you've done in the past, you've likely done something similar. If you really break it down, well, in what ways is this the same as something else that I've done that can help build a little bit more confidence, even though I haven't faced this exact thing? I've done something really similar and I did great, or eventually I figured it out. So I'm going to borrow the confidence from something else that I've done to now help me face this new thing. Number 2, a lack of clarity or focus or priority often will cause overwhelm. So if you're not sure what you should do or what you should work on or how to break something big down into something smaller to start moving forward in that direction, it can feel really overwhelming. Now, sometimes this stems from facing a few options and not liking either of them, and then feeling like you're stuck or overwhelmed. I don't know what to do because I don't really want to do either of these. Now, many times when you're facing a choice, there's actually more than those two or three or whatever decision you're facing. There are often multiple options that you're not even considering. So if you're finding yourself facing a decision and you're just feeling overwhelmed by the choice because you don't really like the options in front of you, then spend some time reflecting, are there other options? Are there other choices? Is this an either or? A lot of times it's not. We might be facing a choice and, oh, I either have to do this or I have to do this, and you don't really want to do either of those. Maybe it's a both. Maybe I could do this and this. And one thing that can really help is to bring someone else into this who is a little bit more objective and not so emotionally attached. And often just talking it out with someone else, even if they don't say a whole lot, just verbally processing that can really help you figure out, well, what are some other options that might be a better choice? This could be a friend or a coach or a mentor, and they might even have other ideas that you haven't considered as well. Now, maybe you're like me and you're wired a little bit more for negativity. My brain often goes to all the reasons why something won't work. And that makes me great at some things and not so great at others. The issue here is that your subconscious mind is actually programmed to help you get what you think about. And it doesn't really see the difference between the things you don't want and do want. All it knows is I'm focusing on this thing, so I'm going to help you get this thing. This is called your reticular activating system. And what it does is it tries to sense patterns and what's important to you, and it helps those things stand out a little more. And it's a survival mechanism. Just a common example of how you might see this play out. Let's say you're looking at a car and you're interested in a black Toyota Highlander. All of a sudden, you start to see these Highlanders everywhere, where maybe before you were looking for one, you didn't really notice them as well. I mean, obviously you're aware of what a Highlander is, probably. But once you've been focusing on that, now your brain knows, hey, this is really important. And you start to just see them everywhere. Similarly, if I would tell you, do not, no matter under any circumstances, do not picture a pink elephant. What do you picture? A pink elephant. I said don't, but what did you do? You did it anyway. That's a really simple example of your subconscious at work and what it does behind the scenes. You're thinking about something, it thinks, oh, this is important, so I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to help you get this thing. So by focusing on what we don't want, we are actually much more likely to get that thing or to see that thing manifest in our life. And how this relates to overwhelm is when you focus on those things that you don't want, it really makes them bigger and bigger and bigger until it just feels like such a huge obstacle that you just can't overcome. The way to combat that is when you catch yourself focusing on the things you don't want, you need to flip it and say, what is it that I do want? Okay. So let's say I'm facing a business decision and I'm worried that if I make this choice, I'm going to lose a whole bunch of students, and I'm focusing on losing students. What I want to do is catch that and flip this and go, okay, what I do want is to grow my audience. I want to grow my classes. I want more people. So I'm going to focus on the growth. What do I want? I want to help more people. I want bigger classes. I'm going to focus on that, on what I do want. And suddenly you'll feel this kind of the sense of relief or calm come in, and the mists of overwhelm start to clear. And your subconscious will start to go to work to figure out how to do those things. Now, next, a lack of priority or focus can also cause a lot of overwhelm. And probably most often how this shows up is just feeling like there's this lack of clarity or lack of focus or lack of priority on what you should be doing next. And so what I recommend is whatever this thing is, whether it's a decision, whether it's something you need to implement or put together or create, break it down into smaller pieces. So start with the big thing and figure out what are the subcomponents of this thing? What are the different bullet points of what has to take place or the different things I need to consider? And just keep doing that. And maybe you're more of a mind mapping kind of visual person. I don't tend to go that way, but some people are. Kristen is like that way. She's good at it. She's really good. I think we should do an episode on mind mapping where you can have a concept and just start drawing bubbles and how things relate and arrows and whatever. If you're more of a details or list kind of person, then do it that way. But whatever works for you, just start breaking this thing into smaller pieces and just get as detailed as you can. Because when you have that, now you can start to see, oh, well, this needs to take place before that. And it can really just bring a lot of clarity. And often what is so overwhelming is that your brain can only hold really 4 like big pieces of information at a time, or 4 things. If you think about your prefrontal cortex, you have a stage that can only hold 4 actors at a time. And if you're like me, you've got a lot of stuff going on in your life, and you just cannot keep a lot of things on the forefront of your mind. And if you don't get them out on paper and don't break them down into smaller pieces, whether it's digital or physical paper, you're going to have this nebulous, large thing that's just like, that's often what feeds that overwhelm, is that you're anxious and you're worried about that thing, and you're trying to hold that on the stage along with all the other things you have going on, and you just can't do it. So by breaking it down into smaller pieces, and getting it out on your head, whatever it is, even if it's not something that needs to be broken down into pieces, but just getting stuff out of your head and onto paper, sometimes even just that act. Maybe it's just, hey, I need to plan this week, and you go through, here are all the things I need to get done. Getting it out of your head and onto paper often will clear a lot of those mists of overwhelm. I don't know why I keep saying that. The mists of overwhelm. But often it can really help the feeling of overwhelm dissipate. Now, once you've got it down on paper, that's where the prioritization can come into place. And you can look at, of all the things that I have going on, what are the most important things? I've heard people talk about this quadrant of urgent, important, non-urgent, not important. And it falls somewhere in that quadrant. And often we will find ourselves working on things that might feel urgent, but they're not important. Or maybe they're not urgent and not important because we're trying to avoid the things that are urgent or that are important because for whatever reason, we don't want to do it. But getting it out on paper will start to help you identify what things really are important, what things really have to be done. Maybe they're urgent and not that important. Well, because they're urgent, they still need to get done. Maybe they're urgent and they're important. Those things really need to get done. And then some things that, this really isn't urgent, but it's important. I still might want to block out some time on my calendar to work on that. If it's important, maybe it's not urgent. If you never do that, if you're only focusing on the urgent, you will never get to those things that really build momentum and build your business. So make sure that even those things that aren't urgent, but they're important, that you're blocking time in your calendar, even if it's 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there, a little bit each week to keep moving the ball forward and keep building momentum in that area. But once you've sat down, put some thought into what's important, what's the most important things going on here, what needs to be done. Sometimes this needs to be done before this, whatever those things are, put that in place, and that feeling of overwhelm will often dissipate a lot once you've got that down on paper and you've really put some thought and energy into what's more important here. Hey friend, if you're finding this helpful and valuable, would you hit that like button? That really helps. It lets YouTube know that this is helpful, and it will help show that to more people just like you who could use help in these areas of their lives. I really appreciate that. All right, back to the show. All right, number 3 is a lack of boundaries. This usually shows up with saying yes to everything, especially if you're a people pleaser, or maybe you find worth and value by being needed by people. It's really hard to say no. Now, one thing that really helps combat this issue is spending some time thinking about your big why, your purpose, what you feel God is calling you to do, and who you're trying to reach, and having laid out things that you want to do and accomplish in this life. The reason you need this is this gives you something to now filter through decisions you have to make. Does this get me closer to these goals? Does this get me closer to what God has called me to do here? And if the answer is no, you really should pause before you say yes to that thing. And this often means saying no to good things, but it is required in order to have the margin to say yes to the best things. Now, if you don't have a big why or some dreams and goals and things like that in place, go back to episode 32, where I walk you through some exercises where the next 3 years will be the best years of your life. And then hopefully the next 3, and the next 3, and the next 3. One other thing that's really helpful as you process saying yes or no to an opportunity is you'll have this feeling in your heart of, am I really excited about this? Or am I just saying yes because I'm worried about how this person is going to respond or what they're going to think of me? And if you're feeling that pause of like, I don't really want to do this, but that's a really good sign that you need to say no to that thing. Now, I know this is really hard. And if you're a recovering people pleaser, it's going to be hard for a long time, but the more and more you do it, the easier it's going to get. The 4th way that overwhelm will creep into your life is when you feel like you have a lack of resources. So this could be time, this could be money, this could be knowledge or skills, and it can feel really overwhelming when you just feel like you don't have enough to do what you need to do. So if time is the issue, I think the way to combat this is to do a time study. So what you want to do is keep track of what you're doing throughout the week. This could be as simple as just having a piece of paper where every 15 or 30 minutes you write down, here's what I'm doing. The next slot, here's what I'm doing. And now you can go back and audit, where am I spending my time? And what you'll probably see is a trend of distracting yourself or working on things that aren't really important, that aren't moving the ball forward towards your goals. There's a tool that I like to use called Toggle, and they have a free version where you can just hit play and then put like what it is that you're working on. You can even create projects so that you can have an overall project, and then just you can track different things you're doing for that project. And then when you're done, you hit stop, and then you can get some reports on where you spent your time. But this is really helpful when you feel like you just don't have enough time. It should bring some clarity around where you're probably wasting time or spending time on things that aren't really that important to you. But I think most of us deep down, if we really are honest and we reflect a little bit, we probably already know where it is that we're wasting time or spending time on things that really don't matter. And then comes the hard part. You got to start deleting some things from your calendar, from your task list, or delegating it to somebody else to now free up your time. Now, this could be something in your business, like you need help with certain tasks in your business. Maybe you really want a bookkeeper or someone to help with social media. Maybe you want another teacher to come in and help you teach some classes. Or it could be things in your personal life, like maybe you need to bring in someone to help clean at your house once in a while, or maybe someone to come in and help do some laundry or do the dishes, or just, help around the house with things you have going on that would give you some time to now work on some other things that you really need to work on and move the business forward. And this doesn't have to be paid help, although it can be. It could even be free help. Maybe your parents or in-laws can help out once in a while with the kids if you have a small child at home. Maybe you could hire a mama's helper, or even for free, a kid in your neighborhood who's trustworthy, who can just entertain or play with the kids. And you're there, so it's not like you're leaving them alone, but they can just come and play and have fun with the kids while you're getting some work done. But if you'll spend some time thinking about it and just be creative and maybe ask, or even ask ChatGPT, hey, I have this issue. Do you have ideas for how I might be able to get some help in this area? Try it out. You might get some great ideas there. If a lack of money is getting in the way, then it's time to sit down and think, how can I make a little bit more money, generate some more revenue to help solve this issue and feel less overwhelmed? Or maybe it's time to look at your budget. And if you don't have a budget, make a budget. Look at your spending. Maybe there's some areas where you're wasting money. Where can we tighten the ship a little bit, spend a little less money frivolously, and have a little bit more money and feel a little less overwhelmed by our financial picture? Or maybe you need to hire someone to help you with this stuff. If you're just feeling so overwhelmed because you're not a money person, you're not a details person, hire someone who is. For people who this is what they do, they're really fast, they're really knowledgeable, and it really doesn't take that much help to bring a lot of clarity and focus to your financial picture. Or maybe you need to hire a business coach to help you figure out how to generate more revenue in your business. Lastly, knowledge or skills might be getting in the way. There might be something that you need to do and you have no idea how to do it. So I think there are a few ways to handle this, and it really depends on what it is and also how often this thing needs to get done. So it really comes down to, is it something that you can do or learn how to do? Or is it something that you should just outsource to somebody else? And then even within that, is it something that you should outsource to just a consultant or a contractor? Or is it something that you should bring in-house and maybe hire someone to be on your team? Or you can hire a contractor. They don't have to be an actual employee, but to bring someone in your business that's like a full-time or even a part-time person to help you with that thing. So here I would say, if you have more money than time, then use money. Like bring someone else in, bring in that consultant, bring in a contractor, hire someone to help you with it. If you have more time than money, then you need to learn how to do it yourself. And here I would say, even if it's something you're going to hire out, you probably still want to have a base understanding of that thing. Let's say you want to build a website for your business. You could learn how to do it yourself. There's courses out there. ChatGPT can even tell you how to do it, and here's the code to do what you need to do. But if you're not going to be building websites over and over and over, it might not make sense to do it yourself. Now, again, if you don't have the money, then do it yourself and just get a course, figure out how to do that. But if you don't, maybe it's worth paying someone to just set it up for you and then learn how to just do the maintenance stuff. So if you want to create a new page, have them show you how to create a new page and how to edit existing pages, stuff like that. There might be times where you really don't need to have a whole lot of experience with that. You just need to hire something out. So let's say you need to have a contract developed, or maybe you want to establish an LLC for your business. Should you go and take courses on law and try to learn how to be a lawyer? No, that's ridiculous. You should just hire a lawyer, get it done once, and then you're done. Now, if it's something in your business I need help with social media or marketing, here's where I would say, even if you're going to hire that out, or even if you're going to bring someone onto your team to handle that, you still need to have a base understanding of that thing. How can you train someone else how to do that thing if you don't know how to do it? Now, you could maybe hire a consultant to help set up a system or a process or to help get things moving, but you don't want to have to pay that consultant every time you want to like make a post or something, right? That's ridiculous. But if you bring someone onto your team to do that, they're going to need some kind of training to know, here's how we do this at our business. Here's our schedule. Here's how we post. Here are things that we include. Here's how we design graphics, like all that stuff. You need a base level understanding of that before you can hope to train someone else to do that. So here, I think it is wise to invest in some training, watch some YouTube videos, buy a course, hire a coach, get good at it yourself before you outsource that to somebody else. My final thought here on this before we move on, and actually ties into my next point, is that this is a slippery slope. Oftentimes when we're facing either a choice or a decision or something we need to do, we can get stuck in this analysis paralysis or this information gathering phase where, yeah, you do need a certain level of understanding, you need some knowledge, you need to learn, but there comes a point where you've acquired enough information to make a choice or do the thing, and now you're just delaying the choice or delaying the doing because of fear or for some reason, and you're using this information gathering as an excuse to not move forward. I heard this once, and I don't know where I heard it, and I don't want to take credit for it. I just can't remember where I heard it. And it's that many of us are educated beyond our obedience. And the way this can often play out, point number 5, is we have a lack of faith, or you might call it fear. And really, what is fear? It's a lack of faith. For us Christians, it's maybe not trusting God with something. It's a really good indication if you're afraid that that's an area where you're not trusting God. And so how that ties into that previous point is that we might be afraid to finally make the choice, to finally do the thing, and we're using that knowledge or information gathering as an excuse not to move forward. But you might just be using overwhelm just in general as an excuse to not move forward. I'm just feeling so overwhelmed because I'm afraid. So if that's you, I really want you to spend some time in prayer, journaling, thinking about this. What am I really afraid of? And we've done a previous episode on fear. So if you need help with that, check out episode 7. But often what I suggest to people is actually play it out. Okay, I'm afraid that if I do this, or if I choose this, or if whatever the thing is, that this is going to happen. Okay, well, let's play that out. Let's say that does happen. Then what? Well, I guess I could do this. Yeah, okay. So like, what would that look like? Well, I guess, I could do this. And it just kind of helps get the ball rolling. You get your thoughts rolling of like, all right, let's say that did happen. How could I overcome that? And I think you'll find that almost everything, almost any scenario you can dream up besides I will die, and in which case, like, you're in heaven and then woohoo, you're with Jesus and like you won't care anymore. But almost every reason you can come up with, or everything or every scenario is figure outable. And it's really a lot less scary when you put in this work. So the common theme here with all of these things, back to what I said at the beginning, is that overwhelm is a choice. That if you boil it down, all of these things are related to a choice that you're making, a choice to stay stuck, to stay in overwhelm, instead of choosing to do the thing that will help you get out of overwhelm. So I hope now you feel a little bit more empowered, that if you're feeling overwhelmed, that you do have a choice to start to end that overwhelm. Now, it might not just go away overnight. It might not be magically just, oh, the mists of overwhelm have disappeared. It might be a process. But if you just take that next step, put in this work, figure out your next steps. What is the next step? Just what's that next thing I need to do? It's a lot less overwhelming. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the next step. So the staircase, the end of it, it might be cloudy, it might be foggy, and you can't see it. We often want to see the whole staircase before we'll take a step. But that's not the way that God works. He often will just give you the next step. And that's where that fear can come into play, and where he shows us, like, this is an area you're not trusting me. And it can be really hard to come to grips with that and be honest with that. But I really want to encourage you to just focus on that next step. You can see clearly, okay, I don't have it all figured out. I don't know how this is going to end up. I can't see the end of the staircase, but I'm going to trust God that he's going to lead me in my next step. It's kind of like driving at night. When you're driving super fast, your headlights can only see a certain distance ahead of you. You can't see the whole way. So as you move forward, you see more and more of the road in front of you. So just take that next step and trust that God will illuminate your steps as you go, that you'll see the next step and then the next step. And before you know it, you've made it up that staircase. Now, if you feel like you need a little bit more help, Kristen and I actually come alongside other teachers and fitness professionals and help figure some of this stuff out. Now, we don't always have all the answers, although we've been there, done that in a lot of ways and can help people with the how and the what and all that stuff. But if you're just needing some clarity, if you're just needing help kind of figuring out your next steps, we're really good at that. So if that sounds like it'd be helpful and you want to have a discussion to see if we'd be able to help you, reach out to us on social media or send us an email and we'll set up a call and see if we're a good fit for each other. Now, if you found this helpful and you're watching on YouTube, again, please hit that like button. And if you know another teacher or someone who you think this would help, would you share that with them? That would really help us. You know, we don't run ads, and this is really how this thing grows, just organically with people sharing it. And hopefully new people finding it and finding it helpful. So if there's someone you could share this with, I'd really appreciate that. All right, well, I appreciate your time and attention, and I will see you in the next one.